So let's sync up here. We're going to sync together.
Like Power Rangers?
Kind of.
Okay.
Or better. Cross your right foot over top of your left.
Okay, crossing my left over my right.
Your right over your left.
My right over my left.
Right hand underneath left armpit.
Right hand underneath.
Left hand on top. Head to the left. Body to the right. And we'll take 6 breaths together. 3 through the mouth and 3 through the nose. So breathe in. 2. 3. Through the nose. 2. 3.
Sorry, I'm a slow breather.
It's a Taurus thing.
Yeah, it's a Taurus thing.
So Adam, we have to start off with the most obvious. NBC Top 10 Trainer of the Year award was NBC, right?
Yeah, it was NBC.
You're a top 10 trainer in America.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where it all started.
Yeah. Top 10 trainer in America. Moving out to California, thinking there's going to be another season on NBC, and there's not another season. I just have a damaged body from the first season and training clients. And I heard about a crazy guy doing some crazy shit in Venice, right down the street from me. And I was like, well, that sounds like my kind of crazy. Fascia and fixing bodies with pressure points. And
How did you come to the garage? Did somebody bring you, or?
So I was working out at.
And this is the very early.
No, this is like I'm maybe patient like 25.
Yeah.
You know, like it was so early on.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you had in between clients, because I remember us having long conversations outside, like talking about like things in the future, like where this could progress. And I had such a deep belief in it because I had all this kind of like intuitive downloads of fascia and the importance of fascia, and this trauma being held in the fascia was a lot of like my ideas in like 2015, 2014, where like nobody's like really resonating with what I'm saying, but I can feel like this injury that happened, but it wasn't the injury I was feeling. It was like the pain of like my brother's death that I was experiencing like through this thing. And it was all built up, and you were like, oh, we can work on that and we can do this. And I remember, I'll never forget like when you did the first like oral adjustment on me, and I was like, you know, like I astral projected, you know, like I felt like I was in another planet. And yeah, I mean, the way I came across you, somebody was talking about somebody doing something really wild and just kind of unconventional down the street. And I was like, that's like a skip away from me. Like I walked down, I went and met you guys, and one of your employees happened to be from like my hometown. So he like recognized me, and from like being on the news, you know, because like I was doing like this news segment back in Milwaukee. So he like recognizes me, and then it kind of just led to like this connection between, you know, you guys, and like seeing how passionate you were about what you were doing, and being able to feel like your practice and like its effects on my life, and then seeing so many other people to like bringing you people like Ben Greenfield.
Ben Greenfield, you brought me?
Yeah. I brought
Joakim Noah.
Joakim Noah.
Yeah, I made him.
Mike
I want to say I made him
Barbell.
7 feet without shoes.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely made him taller. I mean, yeah, Mike Bledsoe, and they came and did that whole YouTube thing on you guys.
That's where we really blew up.
No, that is where it was wild seeing that transition from me. Like, I don't hold any like credit to it at all.
No, you were the original influencer.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
You even took over our Instagram for a day.
I did. I took over your guys' Instagram for a day.
Yeah, and we followed you around.
A day in the life of a trainer in Venice, California, and it was like me working with my clients, and yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I didn't have a lot of people that I could like relate to and connect with, because I was very early on to like different types of movements and things that didn't make sense to a lot of people. I was like the weird guy,
Yeah.
with that kind of movement philosophy. I like came from this conventional like bodybuilding and powerlifting background and being an athlete to like damaging myself and realizing that like movement was, super important, and the quality of my movement. It wasn't just how much weight I could lift, and being able to connect with you and other like-minded people at the Human Garage was, huge for me at the time, because it then became, honestly, like a place that I felt comfortable enough to share something like strong coffee with you guys so early on, that it was just in this like sample
The
phase.
sample phase, yeah.
Yeah, like little black containers with white labels on it saying, like code project, strong coffee, and it was mix one serving with water, and it was just, you tried it. And I remember the first time you were like, I feel like I could see through walls right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's working. Yeah.
What a journey, though, huh?
It's been wild. Yeah. It's been really.
Most people don't have the experience of what the garage was like.
I mean, it was magical, dude. It was, yeah, I mean, it was something that I knew, and I mean, you and I talked about it. I mean, like we talked about me being like a movement coach for Human Garage and like building this whole movement fitness like aspect behind it. And like, because we were talking about integration, like what happens when you get fixed, how do you integrate that piece into your performance aspect so you can keep training? Because we had like, you started having like hockey players and like all these people coming then at some point. And I think what was really cool about it is you had never seen anything like it before. Right? Like it was really like seeing something for the first time, which you don't get to do a lot of. You don't get to see a lot of things for the first time when you're an adult. Like all those experiences kind of happen, and the magic of life in some way is gone as you get older, because newness no longer exists. Newness is dopamine. And so, I mean, there was something really new and really incredible there, where people would like go to get worked on, but they also were getting fixed and were just getting worked on. And then they believed in it so much that they were like flying in their family from foreign countries to like be seen by you, to, us hosting, like, and I say us because like at the time it was us.
It
like,
was us.
I was literally like DMing like everybody I knew in the area, like, hey, there's this thing tonight. We're talking about curcuminoids. We got this doctor from Canada who's speaking about this. Like, you got to come in and like
first events.
Check out this inflammation conversation. It's like the guy beat cancer. Like it's it's crazy. And and at the time I really wanted to believe in stuff like that existed, because like I lost my dad to cancer. I lost my brother to trauma and a drug overdose and things like that. So it's like being a optimist in the sense of like, instead of like people who I initially tried to introduce it to were so skeptical, right? And it really took me getting people like a Ben Greenfield there or a Mike Bledsoe to be like, no, dude, we were here for 2 hours and my body has felt different for months, from a 2-hour session. And being able to like have other people have those aha moments, and then it just kind of like snowballs into this thing that you have, now, where it's like this global thing where, we lost touch for a little bit. I was building Strong Coffee, you were building this, and all of a sudden I got hit with like Human Garage, and I was like, wait, I could have sworn I've like looked this up like 3 times on Instagram and I didn't see it, and now here it is. And they're like just everywhere, like he's still doing it. It was really cool to see that. The algorithm hides certain things from you,
Yeah.
So you had to really type it in. Like it just didn't auto-populate. That's what happens when you're doing true work, I guess.
Yeah.
How did it feel when it closed?
It was, man, there was a lot that was going on. When it closed, there was like a faction. It wasn't just a close, it was a faction, and that was really tough, because there were, both sides believed in what they were doing so heavily, and both sides believed that they were right, and you're like friends with both sides, and you just want everybody to like keep doing the work together, because like that's like how like things like really like happen, right? Like common minds like all like pulling in together to create. And just seeing like Garry like go through all this shit that he went through with trying to prove what he was doing was working, and knowing it worked, and so many people knowing it worked, but ultimately also being ostracized for the fact that it wasn't medicine, and like those types of things were tough to like see like a friend going through, because I believed in him. And if I believed in him, like because I know a lot about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as it kind of progressed and changed, it just kept on getting better and better. And then there was this moment where all of a sudden it just like didn't exist. And it was like, whoa, like how did you just like keep doing this and then just like poof, And that was like right at that time that I moved out of LA as well. I literally just heard that you guys just moved to like this house in Venice when I was like back maybe visiting LA at the time, but I had moved away like months earlier. I was like sitting in the water surfing. My client was asking me a question and I'm like, I think I'm gonna move. And he goes, what? I'm like, dude, something doesn't feel right. I'm like, something's coming. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm just saying something's coming. I'm leaving. And me and my wife, we like packed our shit up and we were gone in like a month and a half later. And
we left at the same time, you know that.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 7 months later, COVID.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, thank God we were in Texas when that happened.
Yeah.
Like we would have probably have lost the company because our fulfillment center would have got shut down. We wouldn't have been able to personally fulfill orders. Like there would have been all these things happening because the constraints that, LA common area had, it was, over the top comparative to Texas. So I mean, it was it was a blessing, and then my head has just been down, like working, just grinding, to build this thing and to like take care of my family and to express like my most authentic self through, a product and a brand and a community that I believe in. That it was really easy to like lose touch with other people, during that time, because you're just like, well, how am I going to make it through this? I have my 2 kids, I have my house, I have my wife. Like, I'm a small business, and we're barely making it happen now. And then all of a sudden, the shutdowns and all those things, and doing so, keep putting my head down, kept, made us, helped us double our company, then double it again and double it again. But getting me further away from like my own health and like even the things that like influence me to be healthier, not by what I eat, but like by my own activity level and taking care of myself in that manner.
Well, you're creating a baby. And
Yeah,
whenever you're
constantly.
Yeah, it's like it's a baby that needs to be fed and taken care of, and it has parents and guardians, and it takes a lot. And
you know what I just realized is that this doesn't happen very often, but there's 4 athletes here. Yeah. Aisha, Cirque du Soleil, and professional dancer.
You look like you did Cirque du Soleil.
Like the build up.
What's up?
And Jason, professional soccer.
Oh, awesome, man.
And
play a little footy.
Me, bodybuilding, of course.
Of course. Yeah, pictures of you are jacked. Mr. Canada over here. Well, that was the thing that me and you really bonded with, because like I was a meathead when you met me.
Yeah. I mean, but you were doing something that you were saying things that other people weren't, because at that time when we say movement coach and stuff like that, everybody goes, yeah, that makes sense. But back then, it didn't.
No.
People are like, what? Why would you do that?
mobility the mobility fad didn't even exist yet.
Well, and I wasn't even doing mobility. Like mobility for me was like years earlier. I was doing like closed kinetic chain movements, like teaching somebody how to move their wrist without moving their hand. And it's like, it's like, this is a great one. It's like, everybody pull your hand out. And then it's like, can you move your hand without moving? Can you move your wrist without moving your hand?
Oh, but I can move my elbow?
Well, I said you can't move your hand.
Yeah.
Move your wrist.
Yeah.
Now you're moving your wrist without moving your hand.
Yeah.
So it's like taking people and like, I had this thing that I called the back door, like backdoor rehab. And it was like, okay, like if you can't move your wrist by moving your hand, I bet you can move your wrist by moving your elbow, right, and your shoulder. So like people who had like seized wrists, from like fighting, from all the impact, was like people that I like played with that with, and it was just like teaching people how to like,
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, you're a dancer.
well, like that's just like
See, you two are like.
that's just like segmentation
Yeah,
and disassociation.
Yeah.
So like being able to, disassociate and do these like things that like would release my fascia. Like I remember showing you like when I first met you how I could like turn this and go, and like I would pop, like it would like snap. You would just hear that like action of release happening. And that was when I had a lot of control over it. And I don't do that stuff anymore because it was kind of like circus, kind of like freak show type stuff. But like it definitely like opened the door. And that was with like I was training with Ido Portal. So I don't know if you know like that the guy from Israel. Very talented mover, but not all good for you, right?
Yeah.
So movement isn't always healthy, not all movement is healthy.
Certain extremes.
Yeah, when you take extremes in range of motion and things like that. But it opened the doors to like what's possible and like also the feelings you got while going through those things. The releases that you got because like you had never moved your body like that. You're like, whoa, like that's interesting. I just got this rush over, over here.
Still move really good.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I've been one thing I've never let go of is no matter how serious life gets, if there are certain songs that come on, I cannot help but to skywalk across the floor and like sit there and like doing like old school like popping and locking. And my daughter's in dance, so she actually is like competing at like national levels and stuff, and so I dance with her and like play with like stuff like that still. And then I do a lot of slacklining. I still do like I still do a lot of my balance work. So I spend like an hour a day like on a tightrope,
Wow.
Yeah, just taking phone calls. I like walk back and forth, and it's just like really like easy for me to like be in flow, and like I just
because you
like,
keep the body busy, the brain.
Yeah. Learning disabilities, right? Like disability, I guess is like the way they would say it, but I feel like it's more like an ability.
Well, there's a reason why like we fidget.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Because when you keep the body, or when you drive, all of a sudden you get all daydreamy and you start thinking about things.
Auditory.
Yeah, because you're keeping the body in a rhythm.
Kineoauditory, like learner or something like that. It's like you have to be active to hear something, and then you'll like absorb it like way faster.
Yeah.
It's like, anytime that I was told to sit still, I can't hear anything all of a sudden. I'm like, all I can think of is the fact that I need to start doing
Again,
this.
4 of us are the same.
Yeah, we're all like that. So what was it like? I mean, you were in your garage building.
Yeah.
And when you somehow we popped up on your screen, we surfaced.
Yeah.
In your awareness again. What was it like to see like? At what point did you find us again? And what was it like when you saw where we're at?
I mean, it was like, it had been like 4 years since I had seen.
Probably 2003, right?
Yeah, like really anything about like, about.
Because we were offline for a long time.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you kind of just popped up, and it was cool because it was like, oh, wow, he's still doing it. So it was like, oh, that's amazing. One, I'm going to reach out to him and just say, hi, like, that's super cool that you're still doing this. Like, is this Garry? And because like, I don't know if it's actually Garry, and it would actually happen to be Jordan.
Yeah, because then we had Strong Coffee in Lions Bay.
Yeah.
We were trying it like 2 summers ago, more or less.
Yeah. So, and Jordan always loved the samples that I would bring to Human Garage, back in Venice. So Jordan was like, oh, send us some of the coffee and we'll, do so. And I was like, amazing. And then we set up at your guys' Austin event here.
Yeah.
And
and you helped us set up Austin, which is really, because we were, that was our first event on our world tour.
Yeah, we were kind of helping you guys figure out like where to call and go for certain events, venues type things.
You introduced us to people.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Yeah, and that's, that's what we do, right? It's like at any point, I know if I would have ever needed a client when I was in LA, and I would have been like, Garry, I need a client, you would have had like 20 people, there like ready to work with me, and would have thought that I like walked on water and could like bench 1,000 pounds or something, you know, like, so it was really just, you know, that's like a massive part of a relationship is like seeing what they're doing and finding a way that you can, you know, help them do that thing. Strong stands for striving to reach our natural greatness.
Wow.
And
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah. And like I've always had this belief, like I've always wanted to be great, right? Like I don't know if like who doesn't wake up and like want to be great, right? Like great at anything, right? But I've always been really good at a lot of things. I've never been like great, you know, at something like great
Dude,
to be.
you were like top 10 trainer in America.
I know, I
That's
know.
pretty
What are you
great.
measuring?
I know, but I'm saying like, yes. So I think this is where it comes to, I wasn't ever going to be like great as in like, I'm going to run the marathon in 2 hours and 20 minutes. No, I was the guy that was great enough to help that guy run the marathon in 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it was like being of service. So like the way for me to find greatness was to help others be great. Right. And that's like what serving coffee is to me. It's literally like it's a metaphor, you know, for like what it is that I am doing for you. You know, it is like I am ultimately like serving like tens of thousands of people coffee every morning just in their kitchen and infusing like this thought process into their day where like a psychological start point is like strong. You know, I'm like, I'm here, you know? So that is like how I seek, you know, the greatness. And I think you're doing something so great by helping other people continue to find their greatness. And it's like, that's very akin in a mindset. So you're not trying to be a celebrity, you know, and that was like the big thing with like Strong Coffee. I mean, I kept my face out of it for years, honestly, other than podcasts. But like, I really was just trying to build a brand around.
You know, same thing. I didn't even want to be the face of Human Garage after all of the hassle. It was just, I wanted him to be the face.
Yeah. I mean, you went through a lot of shit. I mean, you and I have gone through, I mean, we have both been, I'm sure you've been threatened to be sued, all these other things. Like I've had it all like with Strong Coffee, like it's all very intense and like all with like a goal to like do something really good. And you feel like when you try to do something really good, bad tries to continue to stop you. You know, it's like when people aren't doing like good things, it just feels like they just kind of got like a smooth road in some sense. But like the higher in the good you go, like the harder the bad is.
Well, the challenge always meets you where your skill sets are.
Yeah.
So the challenge gets more difficult, but you're more equipped to handle it.
Totally.
And it's constant.
Yeah.
So why did you decide coffee?
Conversational starter. Like it was really it came from a place that this wasn't like an idea I had. A lot of people start companies based off the idea of like reverse marketing analytics, keyword searches, blue space in the internet, you know, like that's how they create a product. I created a product off of what I felt like other people needed that I was making already at home. So I grew up right down the street from Great Lakes Collagen in Illinois. And so I had seen collagen in my cupboard since I was a child. Like big green container, this is hydrolyzed collagen, right? My mom would put it in chicken soup when I was sick, or she'd like, you know, like put it in like our gravy to thicken it up, you know, like all these different things. So like when I saw that and I had coffee and I had like butter and I had like other things, I was just putting that in my coffee for years. When I was the last 2 years of my fighting career, that's like how I started every morning off was some coffee, some whey protein, some collagen, and some MCT oil. Then like a couple years later, you know, Bulletproof is launched and this guy's putting MCT in coffee. And I'm like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like I just knew about MCT oil from bodybuilding. You would eat like all like fat-free meats, and then you would just take a couple tablespoons of MCT oil throughout the day to keep your fats up. But like you didn't have to worry about it like breaking down in a weird way or anything. Like it was like it helped you keep like your body super lean. So it was like the trick. So
that's so funny too, because we just
Yeah,
We were
just with
Dave,
him like 2 days ago.
2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you guys talking about? Oh, with Dave.
Yeah, with Dave. Yeah. It's just funny is that
He who should not be mentioned. No, I'm just kidding. I, yeah. So coffee, was for me the idea of taking these ideas, this culmination of this thing that I've been making for years, and the catalyst was my dad being diagnosed with cancer. So my dad was diagnosed with leukemia, and I noticed that his appetite was like non-existent when he was going through chemo. And I brought him a whole but he was still drinking morning coffee. Like you can't kill routines, right?
Yeah.
Like routines like that, you just can't stop. You'd been doing it for so long. So I was like, well, Dad, what if you put all this stuff in your coffee? And I brought him like Vital Proteins collagen. I brought him all this like stuff. Vital Proteins wasn't even, it was Great Lakes collagen. But I brought him all this stuff and I'm like, put all this, scoop of this, scoop of this, scoop of this, scoop of this, all in your coffee. And he's like, I'm not going to do any of that. And I'm like, okay. So I go home and I empty all those ingredients in a Ziploc bag based off of weights. And I was like, okay, take a quarter cup of this and dump it in your cup of coffee and spoon it in. Right. And he's like, okay, that I can do. So I had this idea at the squat rack like 2 days later. And we were talking about how expensive bulletproof coffee was. And we wanted to open up a coffee shop and we couldn't just sell bulletproof coffee because there was no margins in it. So I hopped on the internet and found out that this coffee roaster would sell us beans. These people had C8, C10, MCT oil, and it was made right here in Wisconsin. Found collagen at this place all within like a couple of days span of time and put together the first non-dairy protein coffee creamer. It was collagen protein, MCT oil powder, and L-Theanine. And then we had coffee beans, and our slogan was roasted weekly, never weak, and strong coffee. I had $15,000 to start this brand. I was delusional. I sold out our stock in the first month, and all of a sudden we were like, we have to restock. I'm like, we have like no money.
Yeah, you used all the cash.
We used all the cash.
Been there, done that.
So we use all the cash, and we also get a cease and desist from he who should not be named. So it's just like, okay, more problems. Because I don't even want to do this. I'm being casted on a TV show right now. I have 2 Versace modeling contracts, in the wings. I don't need this shit, and my dad just died, and my first daughter was just born. It was just like 3 months of, the highest highs and the lowest lows. And so I let it go. And then in 2019, I was sitting at Sun Life Organics in Malibu, and Khalil, if you know Khalil, crazy awesome guy, but he comes up to me and he's like, starts pointing at his phone. He's like, what's this? And he's like, you still own this? He's like, this is so cool. And he's pointing to a Facebook memory of Strong Coffee. And I was like, yeah, that's something I started. He's like, dude, that is crazy. He's like, you were so ahead of your time. He's like, it's still ahead of its time. He's like, you should do this again. And I had this one thing in my head though, that said, if I ever did this again, I wouldn't make a coffee creamer because coffees have so many different tannins and acidity levels that it's hard to make something taste good that goes into coffee, taste good in all coffees. So I'm really going to reduce my rebuy rate if it doesn't taste good in their coffee. So I was like, let's take all those ingredients and just find a high quality organic instant coffee and make it just one comprehensive formula. And less than a month and a half later, I had the first working formula, which is
which we tried at the garage.
Which we tried at the garage. I literally got it in. I drove over to Human Garage and I was like, all right, we got to try this shit. It was 4 p.m. and we were all like, we didn't sleep last night, the next day when we were talking about it. Cause then it had a lot more caffeine and we were using timed release caffeine at the time. But I've always been somebody of integrity. And I found out the time release caffeine was coated in a canola oil. And it wasn't listed in the ingredient. And I was like, oh my God, we can't put this shit in my product. So, I had to reformulate and, we reformulated, over 34 times, the vanilla, the red bag, which was the original, through constant reiteration of where is science at and where are ingredients at, and just constantly trying to stay at like the top of like the ingredient and
Mhm.
flavor game, and never just kind of like rest on the fact that it's like it's good enough.
Yeah. Interesting. And how do you, I mean, a really common topic right now, especially, is mold
Yeah.
and mold in coffee. And how do you mitigate that? Is there a strategy? Is it the type of coffee that you're using? Is it the preparation process?
Yeah. I mean, man, mold's an interesting thing. There's mold in a lot of things. Coffee is about elevation. So the higher you go in elevation, the less likelihood of mold developing. The second part about that is it goes through a drying process after the berry is removed. So a lot of people don't understand that coffee beans come from a berry that actually comes from a flower. And the process of it is pretty tedious, right? Like they're handpicked. They are then put through a machine that pulls all the skin, the pulp off the beans, and then the beans are separated, and then they're put on these tables that are like encased in these plastic tents and these drying tray tables, right? And you sit there and you kind of comb the beans back and forth, and they have multiple layers, and they're all on screen, and they're drying off the beans so that they can then have the parchment paper removed. So there's this like paper on the outside of the bean as well. So this parchment paper gets removed, then the silver skin gets removed. And somewhere in that process, they get separated in bean quality, size, from like a 16, 18 grade down to like a 10, 11 grade, which is like this little small shitty bean. It's sometimes broken. Those can get like turned into like Folgers, you know? Then it goes into this machine that is auto-detecting like dark spots, things that potentially could be mold on like a particular piece of coffee, and then it ejects it. It's like a laser bean scanner. Beans are moving through these like 40 channels of like these gutters that are like this big, like so fast you can't even see the coffee beans. It goes into this light refracting technology and this bright light, and based on how much light it absorbs or kicks off, it shoots the bean out and gets rid of it.
Whoa,
How cool.
that
Right.
is crazy.
Then the bean is put in a roaster. Then it's put on a conveyor belt and it's looked at through natural sunlight type lights to see which beans do not fit in. Right? And that bean is a slightly unripened bean. Right? So that's the whole process that coffee goes through.
So the ones that don't fit in have been around for a while?
Have been around for a while. Yeah, they've been bad. Dad jokes, Garry.
Some things never change.
I know, some things never change. So when I think about mold, I think about really shitty coffee that's being stored. I think of like more commercialized coffee, like Brazilian coffee being a problem. I think of coffee that's being stored in Vietnam is like a big problem because they are like lying. They got caught lying on like their green bean crops and like how many beans they were holding, and they were like fudging the numbers, which is why like coffee beans, I mean, coffee is such a big conversation. I mean, like technically coffee, in my opinion, should be treated far more like wine, right? Like we drink too much of it. It should be more like my one coffee a day, choose the right one, right? The caffeine that it's going to give you, like the balanced feeling, the nutrients, like the no crash, like make sure it's that right type of coffee, because you don't really need a lot of coffee. Because if you saw the tedious process of coffee, and then we look at like kind of like this echelon of like high taste, there's only 3% of the coffee in the world is organic. I mean, like, that's crazy.
I
Right?
didn't know that.
Now, the reason why it's such a low number is because these families can't afford organic labels. They can't afford organic certification. So we have an actual coffee bean coming out that we work with the farm. We're in like direct trade. I was just in Colombia. They don't use fungicides, herbicides, pesticides. They use the coffee berry skins and turn it into a compost and then turn it into a liquid and spray it all over their plants because it's so bitter that bugs hate it. So it is like, because they can't use any of those certain fungicides and things like that because it'll kill the mycelium that is interconnecting all these beautiful plants, you know, and the Castilla bean to like the other beans, to these beans, to these trees, to these trees, you know, so it's such like a synergistic system that the shitty beans that like everybody's fear mongering about the mold concept around is shit coffee. You know, it's Folgers. It's like this crap stuff that like, we're not drinking that. You know, it's like you know, if it's a 90 grade specialty high elevation coffee, it's gonna be pretty damn much mold free. Our instant coffee is all tested like a supplement, so there's zero mold, right? So we can't, like, we have to pass what's called a total plate count, yeast, mold, pesticides. It can't have like anything, right? So it's a TPC. So food products don't have to go through that. But SFPs do.
Yeah.
Supplement facts panel has to have a TPC. A COA, I mean a TPC on an NFP doesn't. It's not the same thing, right? So they're allowed higher amounts of those issues. You know, it's kind of like people say, like, you almost can't eat anything on Earth without lead in it, right? Through the Industrial Revolution, we coated the top 6 inches, the top 6 feet of all of our of everything with lead. I mean, like, we found out that lead helped engines operate smoother and helped engines last longer. So they put lead in gasoline, and it literally repairs the engines as it runs gasoline through it. So they're like, yeah, just keep doing that. And that put lead everywhere. You know, so like when you think about like some of these things that we hear about, like, that kind of become like fear marketing in a way, it's like there are certain things you can't avoid. And there are certain things you can by just buying better quality. And there are certain things that are just very misleading. Like saying somebody's coffee is shit because it's not organic. Maybe that farm just can't afford organic, but they're 8,000 feet up in the mountains and have never even heard about the chemicals that you're talking about. You know?
Yeah. So how do you, let's say somebody does drink a mold coffee.
Yeah.
Have you noticed like signs or symptoms so that they can be aware of what it feels like?
Yeah, so if I drink something like a Starbucks, or something like of that grade, commercial grade and below, so like Starbucks and like Joe's Garage is like the people who like supply McDonald's and like all these people, right?
We're coming after you, Starbucks.
Exactly. You suck, Starbucks. So if you watch my Instagram, I do it a lot. Like I do come after them because the amount of sugar that they put in these drinks that are so, you know, unknowingly hurting so many people. You know, they know that sugar is addictive. They also know that it causes scarring on the brain. They know it can cause diabetes, like all these other things. But other people don't know that shit. Like regular people aren't reading what we're reading. Like and that's why it's like to be a true influencer is to create change, not to create purchases, right? So it's like my goal is like to make.
I like that
I mean,
one.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm completely interested in everything you're saying, right down to the influencer comment. That's some deep stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, I as being like a small family brand, it's very hard to watch so many people just nonchalantly promote their Starbucks constantly with their millions of followers, unbeknownst to what they're doing. And if they only just like swapped out their weak ass habit for something like strong coffee and just maybe promoted that instead of promoting something that is literally poisoning people on every corner and calling it productive juice. You know, it's like I said before the camera started, coffee in that way is more like shut up and work drink, right? Not
medicine.
Not do better drink, right? So it's like, I want the do better drink, not the shut up and work harder drink, right? The thing that makes me feel jittery and anxiety. Like, I created strong coffee because I love all the ingredients in it and I was doing it. And I also felt that the older I got and the more things I was taking on, the more ambition, right? The bigger the dream, the bigger the goal, the more coffee exasperated almost like my worst fears, right? Like the anxiety, the jitters, the failure of ruminating thoughts that would like swirl through your head through that type of like chaos you were ingesting. And it was like, this must be poisoned, right? And then I drink my product and I never feel like that, right? And I just got off the call. On my way here, I had like an hour and 20-minute drive and I talked to somebody, this influencer that wants to work with us. He's DM'd me a bunch of times, like send him product. I just was like, hey man, I just don't have time. Like, I'm not really looking for influencers right now. That's really not how we operate. Like, you know, like you have to authentically like our product and I have to know you for us to even like talk about this. And he's buying so he like sends me a DM. He's like, dude, I bought the product. I've been drinking it for a week. I gotta say, like, I haven't been able to drink coffee in 6 months. And he's like, this really is amazing. And then he like DMs me again. He's like, dude, I just got another shipment. I had to try the other flavors. And he's, same thing, anxiety, jitters, like I feel a certain way. It's like, well, that's what happens. You're ingesting unripened beans that were over roasted to compensate for flavor. So the tannins and chlorogenic acids and things like that aren't properly developed because they pick beans early. And if they just pick them early, they don't care. Like, but they don't have the same density and like all these other things. So they have to roast them longer. So that's where we get the burnt flavor from. They have to hide it.
Oh, wow.
So they have to make them more uniform by like doing that. So like if you saw like our beans.
So how do you, let's say somebody does drink a mold coffee.
Yeah.
Have you noticed like signs or symptoms so that they can be aware of what it feels like?
Yeah. So if I drink something like a Starbucks, or something like of that grade, commercial grade and below. So like Starbucks and like Joe's Garage is like the people who like supply McDonald's and like all these people, right?
We're coming after you, Starbucks.
Exactly. You suck, Starbucks. So if you watch my Instagram, I do it a lot. Like I do come after them because the amount of sugar that they put in these drinks that are so, unknowingly hurting so many people. They know that sugar is addictive. They also know that it causes scarring on the brain. They know it can cause diabetes, like all these other things. But other people don't know that shit. Like regular people aren't reading what we're reading. Like and that's why it's like to be a true influencer is to create change, not to create purchases, right? So it's like my goal is like to make.
I like that
I mean,
one.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm completely interested in everything you're saying, right down to the influencer comment. That's some deep stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, I as being like a small family brand. It's very hard to watch so many people just nonchalantly promote their Starbucks constantly with their millions of followers, unbeknownst to what they're doing. And if they only just like swapped out their weak ass habit for something like strong coffee and just maybe promoted that instead of promoting something that is literally poisoning people on every corner and calling it productive juice, it's like I said before the camera started, coffee in that way is more like shut up and work drink, right? Not
medicine.
Not do better drink, right?
Oh, shit.
So it's like I want the do better drink, not the shut up and work harder drink, right? The thing that makes me feel jittery and anxiety. Like I created strong coffee because I love all the ingredients in it and I was doing it. And I also felt that the older I got and the more things I was taking on, the more ambition, right? The bigger the dream, the bigger the goal, the more coffee exasperated almost like my worst fears, right? Like the anxiety, the jitters, the failure of ruminating thoughts that would like swirl through your head through that type of like chaos you were ingesting. And it was like, this must be poisoned, right? And then I drink my product and I never feel like that, right? And I just got off the call. On my way here, I had like an hour and 20-minute drive and I talked to somebody, this influencer that wants to work with us. He's DM'd me a bunch of times, like send him product. I just was like, hey man, I just don't have time. Like I'm not really looking for influencers right now. That's really not how we operate. Like, like you have to authentically like our product and I have to know you for us to even like talk about this. And he's buying so he like sends me a DM. He's like, dude, I bought the product. I've been drinking it for a week. I gotta say, like, I haven't been able to drink coffee in 6 months. And he's like, this really is amazing. And then he like DMs me again. He's like, dude, I just got another shipment. I had to try the other flavors. And he's, same thing, anxiety, jitters, like I feel a certain way. It's like, well, that's what happens. You're ingesting unripened beans that were over roasted to compensate for flavor. So the tannins and chlorogenic acids and things like that aren't properly developed because they pick beans early. And if they just pick them early, they don't care. Like, but they don't have the same density and like all these other things. So they have to roast them longer. So that's where we get the burnt flavor from. They have to hide it.
Oh, wow.
So they have to make them more uniform by like doing that. So like if you saw like our beans, they're never as dark as like a Starbucks bean. It's crazy, right? They have to really overcook them. The other thing about coffee at a coffee shop, they did a study, and a coffee shop, many coffee shops, they did a study over meta-analysis of caffeine per cup could vary up to 200% based on the size. So depending on who was making your coffee, how they weighed it, how long it's been sitting, brewing, is it the bottom, is it the top of the brew, you know, like oil goes up, like sediment goes down, like all these different things, water solubility, where it's like that cup has 200 milligrams of caffeine, that cup has 85, and that cup has 310. And that was all within a study, like the array of that. So it's like you could be feeling the mold, you could be feeling over caffeinated.
Yeah, you don't know what you're
Right?
getting.
Your norepinephrine is going through the roof. And because you live in America and everything is
more.
easy button, more, your serotonin and dopamine is all the way down here. So you're just like taking a step off of a cliff versus like stepping down and just being like, do. You know, and that's why like with our caffeine, we started at 180 milligrams and I worked my way down to 100. And I just kept on adding more other things, you know, and feeling the same exact feeling. So it was like, oh, let's increase the L-Theanine a little bit more. You know, let's add this nootropic, let's add this. And it's like, okay, like we don't actually need that much more caffeine. I'm like stimulated the same way I was at 200, at 100 for the same duration of time. And we're not taxing people's adrenal system. We're not frying their thyroid. We're not making the adenosine receptor, like we're not playing games with it. We're not actually trying to shut that down. You know, the adenosine receptor is like around like 180 milligrams of caffeine is when it gets like shut down. And we get tired because adenosine builds in our brain and it says go to sleep. So if you take a certain amount of caffeine, you can shut that off. But you also could take just enough amount of caffeine to elevate norepinephrine and heart rate and kind of just get you like moving again. You don't need to have the 200 milligrams to like shut that signal off, which I think is like kind of the danger zone to feeling burnt out, you know, the next day.
Yeah,
Like
you do enough of that and you burn out after a couple weeks.
Yeah, that after day hangover where you feel like you drank all day, but really you just worked hard and drank too much caffeine and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I had coffee and I was in university and I was shaking. I was like, whoa. And now that I know what I know today, it was mold and pesticides and herbicides and stuff that's being put in. And we now know if the body shakes or the brain shakes when you take coffee, it's not good.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've learned just based on how it makes us feel. So
if I could on that real quick, one thing that I have to say, I have to acknowledge is that as much, I almost want to say it's 40% coffee's fault, 60% societal fault. In Colombia, they are drinking the shit coffee. They can't afford the nice coffee, right? They export all the nice coffee and they're drinking like the not so great coffee in town. These people are drinking coffee all day. Nobody has anxiety. Nobody has jitters. Nobody has crash. Nobody's enough people that have said, since I started my day with strong coffee, my CGM just stays like this all day.
You know, we have our fascial sweet, which is a plant-based sweetener.
Okay.
That regulates blood sugar in 10 minutes. We're
Is
starting.
it Connective?
It's glycine based, and
Okay.
and we just started working with like a vegan dessert company to put Power Kirk in the dessert, and then to put.
Do you remember those raw cheesecakes?
That's what I'm saying. That's from
With
Xander.
where she put curcumin in
Xander.
it? Dude,
That's
those
where I got the
were
idea.
So good.
That's where I got the idea.
We had this raw baker back in the day, and she'd like deliver these cheesecakes.
And so we, so
With
the
Power
idea,
with
we're
curcumin in
doing
it.
that with the sweets. So it's actually sweets that regulate blood sugar.
Oh, cool.
We should talk to you about.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
That'd be a really cool branding thing.
we also have some other products that we haven't launched to market yet.
Okay.
That with the fascial sweet and your coffee, I think we can make something really special.
We should make a human
Yeah.
garage latte and just put the glycine in
We'd
it.
be interested in doing that,
Yeah.
actually.
You heard it here, folks.
And is there any version or any of them that kids can consume? Because everything in it, like you were talking about, like the collagen and everything that, you know, brings everything up.
Yeah. We don't have something for kids yet, but we are working on it.
Because you just drop down the caffeine. Because
Yeah.
a little bit of caffeine is actually really good.
So actually, yeah. So what I've been looking at, so we're doing a hot chocolate for kids. I've been really adamant about this idea of the bag being very unique. So it's like held me back from getting it done. I literally want the bag. Do you remember Sip?
Yeah.
The coffee cup with the lightning bolt over his
Yeah.
eye? I literally want the bag to be shaped like a coffee mug, like with like the handle and everything. And it's just like a very like custom job. And I'm like finding the right person to do it. But yeah, we want to do a hot chocolate. One of the things that we put inside of strong coffee that that's not as obvious, like outside the proteins, the MCTs and nootropics, is a nutraceutical that is for BDNF. So it's a polyphenol that's a 4 times extract from coffee berry. So coffee berries are actually one of the richest source of polyphenols on the planet. They're like off the ORAC charts in comparison to like blueberries or any of these other, polyphenol based fruits. So we put the coffee berry in there so one serving of our coffee elevates BDNF by 143%. We have like a research clinical study that actually shows white papers on this, that we can, do that. So the goal is to take those same ingredients and put that in hot chocolate. My daughters will drink the lattes if I do like a quarter scoop with milk. And my daughter, Arrow, loves the vanilla, honestly, but my other one doesn't like the taste of coffee at all. And there's obviously still coffee in this, so it does have coffee in it. But yeah, coming out with a hot chocolate for kids with the same base ingredients, lower amount of collagen. They don't have collagen deficiencies, obviously, because they're developing shit tons of it right now. So we're like looking at other things to like supplement in there, like additional fiber, things like that.
What are for somebody who doesn't drink coffee, what are the health benefits?
Well, 76% of all Americans get 86%, and those are not made up numbers, of their antioxidants from coffee. So if you believe in antioxidants and free radicals in your body and reducing oxidative damage and oxalates and all this other stuff, well, then antioxidants are pretty good for you. So unless you're somebody who wants to triple and quadruple down on your fruits and vegetables, maybe pick up a cup of coffee, right? It could really help supplement those needs. That being said, our cup of coffee has way more, like 10 times the amount of antioxidants and polyphenols as a traditional cup of coffee because we reintroduced the berry. I mean, it's so wild that we've been throwing away that berry since the 14th century. I mean, its own name, cascara, is like cast away, right? Like it's like, so we're like throwing this berry away and it ends up being this like super rich source of polyphenols, and it makes sense. I mean, it's bright red, it's beautiful, and they like in India, there's such high amounts of BDNF, their likelihood of a neurodegenerative disease is like 20% of what ours is, in America. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Wow.
So, and you look at their diet and it's so colorful, all the fruits and vegetables, right? But then you look at our vegetables. What is the color of our vegetables that we eat 90% of?
Yeah, they're like
green.
It's green.
Yeah,
It's almost all
we don't
green.
have
And
very
it all
many
comes,
reds.
and most of it comes from the mustard seed, right?
Yeah.
So like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, they all come from the mustard seed.
Yeah, mustard seed is what.
They're all genetically evolution.
Genetically evolution, yeah.
Right.
Like most people don't realize that the products that we're getting actually were made from mustard seeds so they would grow in the environment.
Yeah. So we're getting the same nutrient array in everything that we eat. We're not getting any kind of, right? Unless you're the person who does love the red bell peppers and the this and the that, but like, you're just not getting this incredible array. So I think like having access to that is huge with coffee.
Mhm.
You know, you also can do stupid shit faster. You know, like it's cool, like getting things done. You know, I like to say tea didn't build skyscrapers,
Mhm.
right? So like coffee built skyscrapers. You know, I mean, it was coffee built elevators, coffee built bridges, coffee built your railroad system. Like all those things were built by coffee.
Mhm.
You know, nobody was like, oh, tea break. You know, everybody's coffee
Yeah.
and Levi jeans.
So with these ingredients that you have in here, because it's not just coffee.
No.
What are the ingredients? What are the benefits?
So grass-fed collagen, we do 15 grams. It's important. You know, there are other people that might have a coffee product that has 5 grams or 4 grams of protein, collagen in it, but we now know how much collagen is actually needed, right? So take you back 15 years ago and 15, 18 years ago in the world of protein and whey, we didn't even know how much protein you needed.
No way.
Yeah. So, yeah, whey. So we were like, because like, remember when they found out it was really just like the amount of leucine
Right.
was actually the important thing
Yeah.
to create like the anabolic potential for protein to do what we wanted to, like all the mTOR and like all these other things that happen, right? So it was like, oh, it's not actually like a certain amount of protein. It's 2.2 grams of leucine and then this amino acid, isoleucine, valine, you know, like, so we're like, okay, well, what is it? How much whey protein do you need to take in to get that much? Well, 22 to 25 grams of whey protein. So all of a sudden that became the number, right? They knew that.
Mhm.
So collagen, that was kind of in the air. They didn't know what the number was. And there's a great study out of Canada, Canadians. Hey, what's that all about? They showed that 15 grams of collagen taken 60 minutes before workout increased collagen fibril size by 22% over the course of 8 weeks. When people that were doing the exact same thing that were not taking collagen did not have the same collagen fiber size. And what that means is stronger connective tissue, ligament strength, density of muscle strands, because it's all like made out of collagen fibers, right? Collagen makes up 90% of it, you know, or 89% of it or something like that. So it's a really important part. So like thicker, denser cables, right, of collagen, you know, are forming. So collagen, 15 grams, 60 minutes before workout. I believe in working out in the morning. It's best for your sleep. It's, you know, it's where your circadian rhythm wants, right? So training first thing, training early in the morning, having food in the morning is really important. Breaking your fast first thing in the morning is super important.
Mhm.
Fasting has all been done backwards. Again, marketing bullshit, right? Instead of centering around breakfast being the most important meal of the day, which creates social constraints for people who want to go out at night, they made dinner the time to break your fast.
You know
Right?
that
And
you know what's funny is that the it was the meat industry during the 60s that hired Oppenheimer to create a myth that that breakfast was the most important meal of the day because they wanted to sell more meat. That's literally how it happened. It was programming in the United States where that happened.
oh yeah, but breakfast is the most, it's not actually a meal, it's an action,
Yeah,
right? And it is the most important action of the day, and it should be taken early on.
but it was how it was marketed.
Crafted because they were not just trying to sell bacon,
Yeah,
they were trying to sell cereal.
right.
So General Mills
That's where
and
it
the
went into.
sanitarium type shit that had totally convoluted ideas about health, like castration and masturbation should be like condemned. Like there are crazy things that he believed in,
Yeah.
right? And when you look at, you know, so we have the collagen, we have the MCT oil, we have fiber. So it's like, okay, you're waking up, you're getting nutrients first thing in the morning, you're getting protein, you're getting calories, MCTs, these medium chain triglycerides that like break down instantaneously, that help with brain function, acetylcholine, you know, all this type of stuff.
So with these ingredients that you have in here, because it's not just coffee.
No.
What are the ingredients? What are the benefits?
So grass-fed collagen, we do 15 grams. It's important. You know, there are other people that might have a coffee product that has 5 grams or 4 grams of protein. In the morning in sunlight, your body starts producing leptin and ghrelin, right? So you're now controlling your appetite, and you also then start the signal for melatonin to know when to produce. So if you eat too late in the day, leptin and ghrelin and melatonin all are being produced too late in the day, and they keep you up later at night, and they mess up with your REM cycle. The earlier you eat in the day, the better your REM is, right? So there's like what I call the RIF diet, which is like what I do, like reverse intermittent fasting. Like I eat in the morning and I stop eating I stop eating around like 4 p.m., 5 p.m.
And then you go to sleep at.
I go to sleep at around 9 o'clock.
Right.
But I eat breakfast with my kids every single morning. Breakfast wasn't just the most important meal of the day for marketing standards and all these other things. It was for families to connect before they separated from long work days and things like that in the farming revolution, like all this type of stuff where people worked hard. They were at factories all day. And you can't like leave for work without getting your kid up and stuff. I grew up like that. My dad would wake me up at 5 a.m. to feed me breakfast. He's like, you wake up now and get breakfast and no breakfast. Oh, I'm going to take the hot breakfast. I'm going to take the eggs and the sausage, you know, like over the cereal, you know? So it's something that reframing the whole thought process around taking nutrients in the morning to set yourself up for greater success, because all of our stress is throughout the day and we need the fuel to take on that stress. We're already in fight or flight, bank accounts, jobs. We don't need additional stress like starving ourselves to trigger some flow state that makes us feel this endorphin kick in that really is just us running from a fucking tiger. You know, it's like the food's right there. Eat it. Like I promise you, you'll feel better. You know, it's like good food. Eat that. High quality. Don't eat too much. You know, like high quality and just keep going. So we have the proteins, we have the fats, and then we have the organic coffee. We have the coffee berry. We have L-Theanine. L-Theanine, great. When in combination with caffeine, makes an incredible nootropic because it is balancing serotonin and dopamine with norepinephrine. So it's really creating this great neurochemical balance so you don't feel all jittery and shaky. Caffeine has a half-life of 3 hours, right? 6 hours after that, you'll even possibly still feel some things. So it's like you need something to chaperone that caffeine so that you can actually have, rest later on, so you can come down, off of it smoothly instead of just like dropping to your uncaffeinated demise of sorts.
Sure.
It's like a bad drug deal, right? Like bad coffee. Like you have to keep going back for more.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was good shit. And then like 20 minutes later, you're like, that shit sucked, and you go back for more and you're like, oh, that's good shit. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, that shit sucked, right? You just keep doing that. But it's like, if you have good shit, then you don't have to keep doing it.
I love it.
It's all stepped on. I'm just kidding.
No, it's like, man, I mean, you're a master at what you do, and you have mastered the information and knowledge of how to support yourself, and you've crafted this into a business and helping others. I love what you said earlier about serving, because I never saw it that way until you said it. I mean, I think about what I do is serving people, but I just never really thought of it in that context, and I love that.
For me, I have let employees go because they think they're too good to go and serve coffee on a weekend. And I'm like, well, then you forgot what we're doing here. Right? This isn't sit on the beach and make money company. This is a put coffee in hands company. And if they love it, then we'll succeed. We don't have the money to like find you on social media and pay all these crazy dollars to acquire customers through digital ads and paying crazy influencers. We have the time and care to put into a really high quality product that tastes really good, that if somebody sips it, they'll want to buy it. They won't feel like they need to by some influencer telling them to.
Well, we're going to spend some time driving the message of strong coffee for sure.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean, we haven't to this date. We've just been getting. We were more concerned about getting people into our programs, getting them healthy, getting them in consistent habits, and we're now starting to add stuff to it. I mean, we've had affiliates, but we never promoted them until now. And the most important thing I found about anything is the person and the philosophy behind whatever that product is.
Mm.
Listening to you today, I'm just proud.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, it's there have been really, 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 really dark times, you know, through this process. Like I lost hair through stress. Like Whole Foods canceled $1 million+ in contracts, and we had made all the product, and we were like, I was just like, oh my God, like what did I do? You know, I'm like looking at my kids and just thinking like, oh my God, I let these people down. Like I'm letting like everybody down, you know, and you're in that moment of darkness, you just like, you think about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. And all of a sudden this light pops back in and you're just like, okay, like that was a dark thought, you know, like, don't ever let that happen again, you know, and you're just, you know, and it happens again because like every time you reach higher, right, you're bound to like put your hand on something.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like climbing, you know,
we're going to get your message out in a different way.
Yeah.
And out of the three of us, I'm the one that drinks coffee every single day. And every time we travel, it's like, how I'm gonna make my coffee. I need to bring my own like French press and where I'm gonna find it and what if there's not enough. And like I always go through these in every stop.
Yeah.
So this makes it easy.
Yeah. I mean, I was there. I was really, I mean, strong coffee really does come from a place of like, I used it and I use it every day. But like I used it before it existed, to the point where I was the guy that when I would fly in New York to model, I would go to the coffee shop at like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. when I landed in New York. I'm like, I'm going to come in tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'm going to have a Ziploc bag, and it's going to have like powder in it. It's going to have this like oil in it, and it's going to have these other ingredients in it. What I'm going to need you to do, so I'm going to need you to blend that in your blender back there with the coffee in it. And I would get like 4 or 5 coffee shops all to say no, and one shop would finally say yes. And I'd be like, I'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'd be there in the morning, 6 a.m. You know, and many shops have literally let me behind their bar. They're like, dude, I don't want to mess it up for you, man. You seem pretty passionate about this. You know, so I'm like in behind the bar, like dumping the ingredients in a blender and blending it up, and like going to my go-sees to go see all the the photographers and stuff. And it was, you know, so it's like, it really, I've experienced all the problems people have experienced, not having what you want, like while you're traveling, and like really just like, how can I take care of that problem, you know, and be like as true to myself, like who I am, you know, at the same time.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
What is one thing you want everybody to know about you?
That I blink. Man, people are so mean on Instagram. They're like, does this guy ever blink? And you know, it's just like, damn, like I am a hyper vigil dude. I am not over caffeinated. I drink 1 cup of coffee a day. I am just somebody you know my personality type. I'm the guy you want in the room if there's a threat. I am looking around everywhere. So even when I'm talking to this person, I am looking at everybody. You know, it's just like, so it's funny. I blink. I outside of that, you know, I'm doing this because I love it. You know, I'm not doing it because I'm rich. I'm not doing it because it makes me rich. I mean, every once in a while I figure out, like, I still have to like be like, oh, are we going to go on vacation this summer or not? Like, do we have the ability to do that? You know, it's like, this is a grind. You know, this is my passion. I keep doing this because it's my purpose. You know, not because I see some massive exit. You know, like I see some massive opportunity to change people's lives, and you know, my kids, they want to like run the company someday. You know, like I want them to. You know, so this isn't that buy a product now, fast. It's, you know, let's put strong coffee everywhere and like allow people to change. You know, we have this franchise model that we're about to roll out, and where you can own a strong coffee for less than $5,000,
Wow.
a table and a tent, and you can set up at any.
I think that's an area where we could help.
You can set up at
we
any event.
we have a network of people that are doing events.
Yeah,
That's something we could really help with.
yeah. I would love to talk to you guys more about it. I mean, we were like, hey, like you can own this area. You get first dibs on all events. If there's events that are bigger, we'll even help pay for the entry fee. Like all we're looking for is for you to obtain emails, new customers, sample the product, get it in people's hands, and you get to sell a cup of this for $7. And we sell it to you for, $1 a serving. You're making 700% markup. And it's like
we could
so
help with the people.
And we have a case study of almost 3 years long that we've been doing this. And again, it's like, how do we help other people? Because I don't want it to be a model that's about us making money. We have no franchise fees, no buy-in fees. Literally everything just covers the cost and stuff. It's like the tent is $2,500, the tablecloth, the heaters, all that stuff comes to about $5,000. And you're just buying all that. You're buying our coffee from us at only 30% over at what it costs to make it. And we're just trying to get you to be able to make some income on the side, connect with your community, and allow us to get our brand out there in a meaningful way.
Amazing. Well, it brings me back to our conversation, I don't even know, like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't even know at this point, but I didn't know you personally, but I brought your name up when we were talking about a drink that you take in the morning. And it was, I really feel like we're going to have a blend that changes people's lives, because we have products that we have not released yet that I feel would be really good in this. And we talked about it, and we were like, for whatever reason, your name came up.
Yeah.
And I feel like we could do something. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, looking for a partnership.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, that's, like I said, there were some dark times. I built and developed 4 different formulas and 4 brands over the course of the year to make sure that money wasn't a problem. Like I didn't take a salary from the company and made my own salary up for an entire year just so I could pour everything back into strong coffee. And I was just product creating for other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, because ultimately that is what I am. I'm a creator. Like I love creating stuff, like art, formula, designs. It's like taking some crazy idea and finding a way to conceptually make it tangible and beautiful is something that is like what I love doing, and that's why strong coffee is such an awesome challenge, because it is that.
Well, I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Pleasure.
Appreciate you so much.
Awesome.
That's a wrap.
Okay.